Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to another week of the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. We hope you're having a great holiday weekend, and we hope that you're going to make Atlanta United part of your holiday weekend plans. They're at Soldier Field Saturday night to take on Chicago Fire for the second time this year, a team that Atlanta United beat in Atlanta at the end of April 3-1. And Atlanta United, Jason, it feels like they need a win. I know they're getting a little bit frustrated with their recent run of form. They've played well in large portions of matches, but they just aren't getting wins to show for it right now. This weekend would be a really excellent time to start getting some wins as opposed to draws.
Yeah, with the exception of the NYC game, the trip to Red Bull Arena, I feel like Atlanta United has had the better of the play in those last three draws. And it's frustrating when you have the better of the play for large stretches of play and get nothing to show for it. And ultimately, in the last two games, if you want to include NYC, it comes down to the goal scoring. You know, there have been no goals scored in the last two. Can't win if you can't score. I feel like everything leading up to it, especially defensively, correcting some of the mistakes that we saw late in the game against Nashville, late in the game against Philadelphia, defensively, they've been very, very good. One goal off of a mistake in NYC and nothing from Red Bulls. That part's been very, very good. I think the build-up play has been very, very good. The middle third of the field has been very good. The final third and converting chances and continuing to work to create even better chances, it's the missing element. Hopefully, the return of Josef Martinez back from Copa America duty. We don't know how much he's going to have in the tank this weekend, but he is listed as questionable coming in. It's a fitness issue. He didn't play over the last couple of weeks in the Copa America. He had played in World Cup qualifiers for Venezuela prior to that. Where is he with fitness? How much can he give? Because there's two games coming up in a fairly short period of time with the trip to Chicago and then a trip to Nashville. It would be great to see number 7 back on the field and finding some goals.
It definitely would. Like you said, you can't win if you don't score goals, but you can't lose if you don't give up goals. That was the story in Sunday's match against New York Red Bulls. I really thought
opening kick presented by Mercedes-Benz. We're off and running.
This match.
Yeah, I did too. It was a rocky start, which is to be expected against the Red Bulls. They make it difficult. Alan Franco had to come in with an injury to Franco Ibarra, and he found it difficult at the beginning to get up to speed. Brad Gazan bailed him out. You see Alan Franco with his hand up. That was absolutely a mistake that he made under pressure, getting up to the just dealing with the Red Bulls' pressure. It's a difficult thing to do when you're cold off the bench. Brad Gazan covers for him. And from then on, I thought Alan Franco was excellent in this match. Second half, it felt like Atlanta was going to find the breakthrough. Brad with the save, but Atlanta United in those moments of transition, I thought looked better and better as the day went on. Jake Mulroney brought a spark off the bench. Great ball, gets through everybody. That's that missing element where it's so close. The follow-up shot was a big save from Carlos and just can't find the handle. That's been the story for Atlanta United here lately. Mulroney is going to be in line for potentially a start in Chicago because I thought he did what we've seen off the bench, creating opportunities. Marcelino Moreno created that one on the sit spin, pulling out breakdancing moves, it looks like. Nearly found a goal off of it. Miles Robinson nearly found a goal with his header off of the post. It's one of those kinds of days. You know, we were very angsty in the radio booth calling this as it came to its conclusion because it felt like, and I don't know about you, Mike, but that Miles Robinson header, it felt like that was it. He goes up, he times it, he places it just about half a foot off. It was so, so close, but ultimately it wasn't enough to find 3 points.
It is 1 point, and it's a draw against Red Bulls, which is a team that Atlanta United has had a lot of trouble against. So if you look at that as a silver lining, that's definitely a fact that Atlanta United, after the first half hour, seemed to figure out a lot of that Red Bulls disruption And as you said, Jason, Atlanta United definitely had a great scoring opportunity right at the end of the match. Now, since the Red Bulls match, there's been a little bit of additional club news this week, and it's great news for 4 Atlanta United players who have been called into national teams, and a really great opportunity for 3 American-born Atlanta United players to go to the Gold Cup later this month and play for the U.S. men's national team. Brad Guzan, who will bring them some veteran experience, Miles Robinson, who actually scored a goal for the U.S. men's national team against Trinidad in a friendly a couple weeks ago. And I think this is an awesome opportunity for George Bello, who has played phenomenal soccer, really played his way onto the team, in my opinion, with how he's done in the last couple weeks. A great opportunity for George.
Yeah, great opportunity for Bello, who it feels like in this last year for Bello, we'll go back to the return of MLS last summer. Bello has just consistently improved, and I think it's defensively where we've seen the biggest improvement. This year, tactically, he's had some different questions asked of him, and I think he's had the right answers to those. But we knew he could get forward previously, but how would he do in those 1v1 situations defending? How would he do late in games defending after a lot of runs up the field? Better and better and better. It feels like almost every week there's improvement for George Bello. Top young player in this league, one of the top left backs in this league. He's going to be competing with Sam Vines for time, but I think we'll see George Bello with the national team in the Gold Cup coming up.
And this is going to make George and Miles better players, the opportunity to play in a tournament like this. I also can't wait to see Ezequiel Barco in Tokyo at the Olympics. That call-up was confirmed on Friday, though we've known about it for a little while now. So Ezequiel will go into training camp with Argentina after this Chicago match on Saturday. And the one thing you have to say about Ezequiel, especially in a U23 competition like the Olympics, we saw how well he did at the World Cup 2 years ago. When he plays for his national team, Ezequiel seems to really, really show out.
Yeah, he's asked to do a lot with his national team, Ezequiel Barco. He is a prime figure with that U23 group that's been together for a while. And there's a lot of players who have broken through in the Argentine First Division, the Primera División. Some of them have moved on since they started with this group that's been together for a while, going back to the U20s. Some of them have moved on to Europe, but Ezequiel Barco is one of 2 MLS players, and Claudio Bravo of the Portland Timbers is also part of it. Barco takes on a lot of responsibility with this group. He's one of the players who has achieved the most in his club career out of this group. So there's big expectations for this team in Argentina. They take the Olympics very, very seriously. They have 2 gold medals already. And this is a team that has expectations to win the gold medal at the Olympics in Tokyo.
So that's the good news. The unfortunate news is those 4 players are going to miss a substantial amount of time with their club this summer, but it is what it is. It's part of the peril of being a big club. You're going to have players called on to national teams. And fortunately, Atlanta United has a lot of depth to deal with these losses. You'll lose Miles Robinson, but you have Alan Franco to pair with Anton Walkes. You lose George Bello, but you do have Mikey Ambrose. You do have Ronald Hernandez as well, and Brooks Lennon. You could invert there. Barco, obviously, that's a substantial loss. Maybe the biggest loss of all, though, Jason, is Brad Guzan. It's a great opportunity for Alec Can, who has played great with Atlanta United, too, in some rehab assignments this year. But it's interesting because Greg Berhalter wants the U.S. men's national team to build from the back. And haven't we seen Brad Guzan be really involved in build-up play for Gabriel Heinze this year?
Yeah, he has. And it's been the biggest development that I wasn't sure how long it would take, to be perfectly honest, because Brad Guzan hasn't been asked to do as much of that, even during his time in Atlanta with possession-based teams. Now he's critical, and he's very involved whether the ball finds its way into his hands and it's a throw out into open space, or stepping out of his 18 and playing as a field player. And we've seen that plenty. The saves, I think Brad Guzan's been on point with that element of goalkeeping this season. He's made some big saves for this team in big moments. But for me, it's the complete performances this year, and I think that's why he earned this call-up to the Gold Cup roster. And don't discount the fact that Brad Gazan could be in competition for time in upcoming World Cup qualifiers. Zach Steffen is at Manchester City, and he will not be their first-choice goalkeeper. Ethan Horvath is out of contract right now, and he will be in a situation maybe as a number 2, maybe as a number 1. Not sure where that's going to fall. Past that, in my opinion, it's wide open for the U.S. men's national team. And Brad Gazan playing like this, just being comfortable to have the ball at his feet, dribble a little bit to create the space that he wants, that's just so important for Greg Berhalter. Because Greg Berhalter, from a positional play perspective, it's not dramatically different from what Gabriel Heinze wants. He needs his goalkeeper to be able to be a field player at times when they're under pressure. Brad can do that. He's shown that ability this season. It's huge. Now, you mentioned the proving ground. Alec Kann has played on the proving ground this year. Ben Lundgaard has played on the proving ground this year. And I think both are possibilities to replace Brad Gazan while he's away for the Gold Cup. It's not going to be easy. We know how important Brad is to this team, especially from a leadership perspective. But I think the fact that Kann and Lundgaard have gotten that time shows the importance of the proving ground in Atlanta United too, because both, I think, are ready to step in if called upon.
Yeah, Kann was phenomenal in that match against Louisville last month. He had 7 saves, clean sheet, saved the penalties. So, yes, not only does it give him competitions, and Lundgaard as well, but you want to see Alec dominating when he has the opportunity to play, and he certainly dominated in that Louisville match. Now, it's been an interesting week and a half for Atlanta United, too. It started, well, not a week and a half, actually, more like a week. It started last Sunday at the Fraction up in Kennesaw against OKC Energy, a team that's becoming very familiar to Atlanta United, too, this year.
Yeah, a team that has had some changes of their own after a win and a draw for Atlanta United 2 out in Oklahoma. They have made a coaching change. The two started this game on the front foot. I mean, and a really quick opportunity. I couldn't even finish the keys to the game before they had an opportunity. It was that good of a start for Atlanta United 2. Now, Oklahoma City Energy has been energized with their coaching change. They've been on a good run of form. They'd won 2 of 3 coming into this. So they made life difficult for the Twos, but I felt like this was going to be a big night, and the Twos got the first goal in it. It was a really good, complete performance from Matias Benitez, the young attacker on loan from River Plate, who I feel like is just rounding out his game in a big way. We've seen him lead the press and be very good defensively in those moments. We've seen him create for others. He's one of the best dribblers in the league. Great finish there to give Atlanta United to the lead. But the wheels came off at that point, and it was a really disappointing conclusion to the match. It felt like, I don't know, the foot came off the gas at that point, which we see with young teams sometimes. You know, the performance wasn't as solid. Benitez nearly found a second goal. It should have been a penalty in that moment. The foul happened inside the 18. Referee disagreed. Benitez puts it off the crossbar. That's from the spot. Maybe it's 2-0 at that point, and things are comfortable. They weren't. And OKC Energy came back and ended up getting the 2-1 win here, as it just felt like the energy level dropped a little bit. And Atlanta United 2 was coming off of a long layoff. They had played in Memphis 10 days before. They struggled to maintain the intensity of the match. Young teams have that issue sometimes. A set piece ends up being what undoes them, with Connor Donovan putting it away. That's also been an issue for this team. But it's something that gives Jack Collison, I think, a lot to talk to a young team about. You want to get wins in these games. You want this team to get into the playoffs. If you're, Carlos Bocanegra, if you're Jack Collison, if you're looking at the goals for the players. But when you're talking about developing players, sometimes those moments where there are mistakes made, where there are issues, are the moments where that development can take place, because you can break down and show these young players, look at what you were doing up to the 1-goal lead. Look at what happened after. That's not acceptable. And that's where it kind of fell in this game. Now, it's interesting. They had a chance to bounce back really quickly in Birmingham in the midweek, and they got to play 45 minutes, but storms rolled through, and that game is wiped away. It was 1-1 at the break. I would be willing to say that it was the best 45 minutes for Atlanta United 2 this season, which is frustrating because they were playing so well. Benitez was electric. Daniel Sabatu got his first USL appearance in this and was pretty good. He created a really good chance at the end of the half as he got comfortable. But that didn't happen according to any of the stats. They're going to have to start from scratch when Birmingham can find a spot for it in the schedule. This is game number 3 for them that they're going to have to make up.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's just been a lot of kind of odd luck this week for the Twos. They had an apparent early goal against OKC on Sunday ruled out. That could have really changed the complexions of things.
I'm glad that wasn't in the highlights because you might have watched my head explode again.
I don't want to talk about it too much. I want to focus more on your so fresh, so clean keys to the match, which I actually really enjoyed. I'm glad they got that graphic in there. Anyhow, the less said about it, the better. Let's move on now to the MLS results from this past weekend. And again, kind of an eventful week that started with Orlando coming from behind to beat Miami. Another strong win by Kansas City. They're plugging along. Toronto, really have to ask some questions about them right now. They are struggling. Minnesota got a really nice win at Portland amid some unfortunate circumstances there. Nashville and Montreal played to a draw. It feels like Nashville's been doing that a lot. But right at the bottom there, Jason, that's the one that stands out to me. That was a huge win by Dallas over New England. It feels like Dallas has gotten off to a disappointing start this year. That was a huge 3 points for FCD.
Yeah, that was a game that felt like a no-brainer that the Revolution would be able to go into Frisco and play as well as they have this year. Carlos Gil's been outstanding. And Dallas stepped up to the occasion. You know, it's a young team. Ricardo Pepi, a teenager, had both of the goals. He was outstanding in the match. But New England, you know, I don't think it hits any panic buttons or anything, but that's a surprising result from them. I expected more. LA Galaxy lived up to expectations with a 3-1 win over San Jose. They scored the first 3 goals of the match. San Jose is in a bit of free fall, and they have made a change in their front office since that result. Jesse Fiorinelli is out. We'll see what that means for the long-term futures of the San Jose Earthquakes from a front office perspective, from Matias Almeida's perspective. The other game that jumps out to me is the New York City win over D.C. because it was a late winner for the Pigeons in that one, with Sean Johnson making a big play and then the perfect distribution in that moment out to Thiago, who, maybe a 70, 75-yard run. Didn't have a ton of players to beat because DC had everybody up. Johnson makes the play. But Thiago did have to pull a couple of moves at the end of it to create the space. It should be up for a goal of the year conversation, in my opinion. It was a great goal for NYC and a moment a young player will always cherish. NYC needed that kind of a win in that moment. Now they get back-to-back after the win over Atlanta, and the Pigeons are starting to look like a team you got to watch out for in the East.
And they're looking like a team that's hard to break down, to a couple clean sheets for Sean Johnson in another low-scoring game against D.C. over the weekend. So that brings us to this weekend in MLS, and here's the slate for the holiday weekend. And, we talked about this on Soccer Down here on Friday morning. Colorado always gets an opportunity to host on the 4th of July. They have Seattle coming in Sunday night. Columbus opening their new stadium against New England Revolution. Probably going to be a very emotional evening in downtown Columbus on Saturday. That DC-Toronto stands out to me, Jason, because those are 2 desperate teams, and I'm really wondering when the turnaround's going to come for Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know if it comes here, and if it doesn't, they're looking at a month ahead where they have a number of players who will be with Canada at the upcoming Gold Cup. They have some other players who will be with other teams as well. Toronto is one of the harder hit teams in Major League Soccer during the Gold Cup, and they're struggling going into losing a number of key contributors. That will not be easy for the Reds to manage. Columbus is going to have some problems as well. They have a number of players who will be missing during the Gold Cup coming up. Eloy Room, their goalkeeper, Josie Zardes, are the headliners there, but they have a number of injuries as well. this is a really beat-up team. And when Zardes goes away with the national team after this match on Saturday, Bradley Wright Phillips is injured right now. They don't have a striker. And what is Caleb Porter going to do to figure that out on the fly? I'm curious to see what they do even with the Gold Cup guys available this weekend against New England, because they do not have a full complement in their roster. The other game to keep an eye on this weekend, in my mind, is the Nashville-Philadelphia game, because we've seen Philly here recently. We saw them against Chicago as we were preparing for this weekend's Atlanta United match. We know how Philly plays. Nashville's a little different in that they're not a team that really needs the ball here. So I'm curious to see how a defend and counter team like Nashville, that can play on the front foot but generally chooses not to, will play against a team in Philadelphia that is play it long, will try to win the second ball, will press. What kind of a match happens at Nissan Stadium? And it's another one of those that we have to keep an eye on, because it's a pretty quick turn to a Thursday trip to Nissan Stadium right before the Gold Cup starts. And, you know, both teams have questions in how they're going to look in that game on July 8th, with a lot of key players away for the Gold Cup.
Yeah, Walker Zimmerman will be out for Nashville. Miles Robinson, George Bello, Brad Guzan out for Atlanta United. We'll get into that later, but let's talk about Chicago now, and the Fire, who are bottom of the table in the Eastern Conference, but really got a good performance in a wild match this past Saturday night against Philadelphia Union, a 3-3 draw at Soldier Field. I don't know if this means, Jason, that Chicago has started to figure some stuff out. Goals have been hard to come by for them this year, but I think against a good team like Philadelphia, a 3-3 draw is a positive from which they can use as a springboard into this match against Atlanta United.
Yeah, Raphael Wicke coming into that match was talking about wanting players to stand out and show their personality, not hide. I thought it was an energized Chicago Fire team that came out. They got an own goal early. There were a couple of own goals in this match. They gave up a golazo to Quinn Sullivan in his first professional goal. You're not going to find a better first professional goal than this one for Quinn Sullivan. That's amazing. But the game was weird because it had rained heavy before the game. You see water coming up in these highlights on the field. So the play alternated between the ball kind of skipping at times on the turf and kind of being waterlogged at times, and it absolutely affected the game. Chicago had to get a little more direct than I think they want to under Raphael Wicke. They also came out in a different shape. They came out playing a 5-3-2 to be a little more defensive. They conceded 3 goals. And that's a bit of a question mark. And this weekend, they will not have Francisco Calvo, who was one of the 3 center backs, because he has already joined up with the Costa Rican national team. They have some injuries as well. This is going to be one of the elements coming into the match that you and I will be talking about on our Five Stripes Countdown on Star 94, is how does Raphael Wicke solve the problems that his team will have due to availability? He doesn't really have a like-for-like replacement for Calvo, who's been their captain. Do they stick with 3 center backs? You're going to be turning to probably Wyatt Almsberg, who's listed as questionable on the injury report. I don't know. Do they go back to a line of 4, but then the defensive frailties that they've had this season come back to the 4? So there's questions there on what this lineup looks like for Chicago. Atlanta has those too. But there's also the question of a good performance washed away on an own goal like this one that will just drive you insane. It's a good play from the goalkeeper, Shuttleworth. He deflects the cross. It falls off of Boris Sekulic, who did nothing wrong, and that's 3-3. That's a gut punch after a series of gut punches for Chicago. How do they respond in another home game, on a holiday weekend? What does the energy level look like for the Chicago Fire this weekend? When you hear a manager before that game that finished 3-3 say the things that Raphael Wicke said about not wanting players to hide and wanting players to show their personality and stand up and be accountable, it's a little bit of a challenge to the players in the team. How do they respond now after, I think, answering the challenge that their manager laid out but still not getting the result that they probably feel like they deserve with their play in this game. I don't know. There's a lot of psychology that I think is at play with these two teams right now.
Well, it's like Heinze said earlier this week when talking about Chicago, that sometimes your spot on the table does not reflect what you deserve. And I think that's a compliment to Chicago. They're probably more deserving of what they have right now, probably deserved 3 points in the match against Philadelphia this past Saturday, end up with 1. Unfortunately, that's been kind of the story for Atlanta United as well this year. A lot of matches where it feels like they deserve 3 points, they end up with 1. And the psychology and the mental state of the team is something that we talked about earlier this week when we had a chance to visit with Anton Walkes. Anton, how's the team feeling right now? I know there's been kind of a mixed bag of results since the international break ended. What's the mood of the team right now?
A very frustrated group, I would say. I think we can't ignore our emotions, especially with how results are planned out. I think we've dropped some points in places in for positions we should have kept them, and it's been painful. But again, it's one of those learning experiences, and I feel we had to come together as a group, and it just showed some of our character and resilience because things like this happen over the course of the season, and if we want to be successful this year, we have to overcome these hurdles.
I'd love to get your reflection now as you're a few months into working with Gabriel Heinze and his coaching staff. How different is it from coaching staffs that you've worked with in the past?
He's more intense in the small details. I think he really breaks down individual players' game and areas where they need to improve, especially with me. I think he's pointed out multiple things since I've met him where he wants me to improve, even if it's just a passage of playing one game or even in practice. So, the attention to detail is very good, and I think, especially him being a defender, he's helped me a lot so far, and it's one of those things that I feel like I'm learning every day. So, all due credit to him. He is a guy that demands a lot, and at the moment, again, results have been frustrating under him, but I think what he's done for the group and how he's made us come back together, I think he's done very well.
I want to ask you about that. Is there something in particular that you feel like he has taught you that has made you even better as a center back?
I think, again, just the way you break down the game. I think you've got to see things from someone else's perspective sometimes. I am my biggest critique when it comes to how I play, so I try to look back at what I've done wrong and try and put it right. But when you've got someone with his knowledge and experience, and like I said, he was an ex-defender and he's played in some of the best leagues around the world, just for him to give you that advice, clearly it's helped him. So at the moment, I feel it's helping me. And again, it's just all about improving. And I feel like with what experience he has, he's got, all it takes to make sure I keep improving, especially other players around the team as well, But from an individual standpoint, I can't fault any help or advice he's given me so far.
One of the big talking points this year has been the intensity, the aggressiveness, and the man-to-man nature at times of how Atlanta defends. How do you and Robinson and Franco and Gazan, your back line and midfield as well, how do you guys handle the communication in those moments where things break down a little bit?
I think you have to see it from before it happens. I think you have to sense it. I think you can tell sometimes in games when, you could be 10, 12 seconds away from conceding a goal when you have the ball. Sometimes even this, look, for example, against New York, that came down to us, but it's just one of those things where after that, we need to react quicker. I think there will be mistakes in how we want to play. We want to, be aggressive and use all the attacking threats we have. So, again, it's just about communication before it's even happened, just making sure you're in the right areas to make sure we help each other out ultimately. Because we are, it's evident we are going man for man across the field, but we've got the speed, we've got the strength, and again, I believe we've got the qualities, and it's just one of those systems where it takes some time to get used to. We have improved massively on it, and there is still room for improvement. So we're working on it every day, and it's not something we're just going to sit back on and allow us to be exploited. We're going to keep working and pushing to make sure we can improve in those situations. Because when it works fantastically.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say you're about to go into a stretch now starting next week, Anton, where Miles and Brad are going to be gone along with George, called up to the U.S. men's national team. How big of a challenge is it going to be with maybe different voices now on the back line communicating?
Again, it's going to be hard, but whoever comes in, especially I know what it's like sometimes when you don't play and you've not had a few games to showcase what you can do. I think it's an opportunity for everyone. You know, we've got Brad going, who's, you know, obviously our captain. For me, it's an opportunity to stand up and be more of a leader. If I want to be successful with the team and if I want to have a chance to be successful this year with us, I need to make sure my performance is improved as well, just to make sure I can help the guys coming in as well feel comfortable. So again, it's opportunities for the guys coming in, and I know they're hungry. Everyone's hungry in this group. So, it's going to be a tough challenge, but it's something we're going to embrace and look forward to.
A lot of Atlanta United fans were really excited to see you rejoin the club last year. How did your time away change you? Maybe not even just as a soccer player, but just as a man. You know, how have you changed since you were with Atlanta in 2017?
I'll be honest. I'll start with what you just said about being a man. I was a man when I came here. I was still a boy. I was a teenager. I was still young. I lacked experience, and to go away and experience, playing back home again was one of those things where, it helped my game. It helped, the aggressive side to my game, I feel. And again, just outside experiences, becoming a father, settling down, daddy duties, just making sure, I've got a sweeter side to me sometimes. But it's one of those things where life experiences, they help you. And again, it makes me take my passion for this game more serious. So hopefully I can share as much as I can when I step out onto the field.
I want to ask you about your goal against Philadelphia. It's got to feel good to get that reward. You put in such a high level of work. You work so hard, and it's not frequent when center backs score goals. So when you get the opportunity to put one in the back of the net, I'm sure that had to feel very, very good for you.
Yeah, I feel like it's a long time coming. Hopefully, I thought that could have happened last year, but I wasn't fortunate enough to get one. But again, that's a target I've set myself, and especially with me and Miles, I think if we go up for corners and set pieces, I think we can be a threat front. So that's just one ticked off, and hopefully I can contribute with a few more this season. Our games are coming very fast, but I believe I could become a bit of a threat from set pieces, and I'm planning to utilize that to more of my ability. So hopefully I can help get back to the team as well.
So as we go into this busy stretch where, as you said, it becomes an opportunity for you to step up as one of the leaders of this group with some players away, what are the big reminders that you're going to be passing along to some of the young players you're going to be called upon?
Again, it's going to be tough. I think there's no game that we're playing this year where it's easy. Again, when you feel comfortable like that, that's where we've been unfortunate and we've ended up giving away leads. So it's about making sure we do our jobs and stay concentrated. I think the games are tough, the games are long. The system we play requires you to be locked in at every single moment. I think there's no room for error in these games, especially with the quality the league does have. You give a team one chance and the ball could end up in the back of your net. So I think the guys, especially how I was, I think these guys are very young, very hungry, got a lot of potential. And so if they come in, I know they've seen from the great guys, the great leaders that we have had playing in their positions. I think they've set good examples, so they should be ready. And I believe they are.
How do you feel about Chicago? They just scored 3 goals on Philadelphia at home last week, and it feels like offensively things have started to come together for them very recently.
All due credit to them with what they've done, but I think again in these games we go in and it's about what we do. I mean, we have to go there and be dominant. I know it's an away game, but we have to go there and impose ourselves from the first minute. I think if we can do that and get a foot into the game from the very first whistle, the game's in our hands. So again, it's not going to be an easy game, but we know what we're signing up for with these. We played them already this year at home, and again, it's a challenge, and we want to go there and get 3 points.
One of the big talking points that we've had this season is how difficult the Eastern Conference is, how difficult every match is. It feels like there's no easy games in the conference. How have you seen the league change from when you were here before to now? I
think one thing I noticed is the age of the players. I think they're becoming a lot more youthful. I think if you look around the league, especially over the last couple of years, I think DPs tended to be the older guys, whereas teams are now taking the younger approach and bringing in, quality, which, in all due credit, is working for teams. So I'd definitely say the quality, the speed, the tempo, everything's increased over the last few years, and it looks like it's still continuing to do so. So it's good to be part of, and it's a challenge. But again, it's something you embrace because you want to, play at the highest level that you can play at, and these teams seem to be getting it out of everyone. So that's a good thing.
All right, one more from me, Anton. You mentioned that the group's a little bit frustrated right now, but it also feels to Jason and I like the team's close, that it's starting to get really, really close. Do you feel the same way, that you guys are close?
Yeah, of course. I think if you look at some of these games, I think these games have been decided down to 2 or 3 moments in the game. And I feel like these moments are down to what we do. I think apart from one goal against Philly where the guys shot from 20, 30 yards, there's not much you can do about that. But everything else was in our hands, I feel. So if we can, again, be locked in as a little bit more concentrated, and again, more communication amongst ourselves, I think we're not far from, results, working in our favor. And I'm a true believer of that right now.
Well, Anton, it's a pleasure visiting with you as always, and we're looking forward to seeing you this weekend up in Chicago.
Thank you, guys. I hope you stay well and stay safe.
Love getting a chance to talk to Anton Walkes. I think he's one of the smartest players in the league, and I love talking soccer with him, but as you heard in that interview, he does get into that psychology a little bit and where the team state is. He was very open with us. I loved getting the chance to catch up with him.
He's very honest. Not only is he a very cerebral player, but he's very, very honest, and I appreciate his candid remarks. And Anton kind of plays into my prediction for the week, Jason.
That's a segue. I like it.
I have a good feeling.
Okay.
I have a good feeling about this match, and I have a good feeling about Anton and Miles and Alan Franco. I predict, Jason, that Saturday night at Soldier Field, Atlanta United will get a goal and or an assist from a center back.
Oh.
Miles came close this past Sunday against Red Bulls, header off the woodwork, off a set piece. Anton scored against Philadelphia, again off a cross. I think the service has been really, really good from Brooks Lennon. I think that we've seen Miles as a target on those corners. We've seen Anton. And honestly, we've seen Santi Sosa as well. He kind of sort of plays like a center back at times, but I'm not counting him. That wouldn't be fair. I'm going to say a goal and or an assist from a center back for Atlanta United on Saturday.
This is a tough one to predict because there's just so many questions in it for me. So trying to find the prediction, I'm trying to figure out, does Chicago come out in their 5-3-2, which doesn't exactly play like a 5-3-2 because Ignacio Aliseda is one of the two, and he's a winger, and he's going to drop in. So if they come out in the 5-3-2, does Atlanta do what we've seen them do so often this season and play 3 center backs with Santiago Sosa dropping into the back line, or do they realize that it won't really play like 2 up top, so they'll just make sure that Aliseda is accounted for? The mental states of the two teams with recent results. Like, there's so many different elements. I don't really know what direction it goes. I do think there is a player who will factor in, and unfortunately, it's due to injury. Franco Ibarra, his injury that he suffered in the Red Bulls match, he's out for this one. But it's a player who knows Chicago well, Mo Adams. I think Mo Adams plays a role in this match. Mo is not a guy who's going to, score a bunch of goals, even have a bunch of assists, although we have seen them here during his time in Atlanta. I think Mo Adams will end up having 4. No, I'm going to go higher than. I'm going to go 5, which is a large number for defensive actions. 5 defensive actions. That's tackles and interceptions. I think Mo Adams will, whether it's from the start or off the bench, really fit in to the game plan for Gabriel Heinze against Chicago. And I also think Mo Adams will be very up for this match. I was honestly shocked when Chicago made him available, and love that he is here in Atlanta. I think he fits Gabriel Heinze's tactics like a glove. And now that he's fit and we've seen him play a little bit, I think Mo Adams could end up playing a significant role here but he will be very disruptive to anything Chicago wants to do. 5 defensive actions for Mo Adams.
What is the statute of limitations for how long you have to wait before you can celebrate a goal against your former team?
Well, a lot of it depends on how your former team let you go, because it's a sign of respect to your former team, and if they didn't really respect you on the way out, I've seen players not do that, and they've maybe celebrated a little vigorously after scoring against their former team. I think Mo, in this case, will, if it happens, which would be amazing, Mo will be maybe a little muted, but not completely without reaction.
I hope he gets the opportunity. He's a great guy. He's worked really, really hard to get healthy. And I'm with you. I think with Ibarra out, Josetu is out, we know. Hyndman obviously out for the year. Mo Adams, he's going to be a factor over the next month as Atlanta United deals with all the international call-ups and all the injuries. Sounds like Ibarra is going to be out for a few more weeks. So I'm fully with you. I think that's a great shout. Mo Adams is going to be a big part of this match coming up on Saturday, which you can watch on Bally Sports, which you can hear on the new Star 94 FM in Atlanta and on the Atlanta United app and the Odyssey app. Kickoff 8 o'clock Saturday night at Soldier Field. As Jason said, it's going to be a busy week because after this, Atlanta United turns around and plays a very rare for them Thursday night match at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. That'll be next Thursday. That's going to be a tough one, too. And then Atlanta United after that, they host, we're glad they're at home, but they host New England, the number 1 team in the East. So big opportunity, big match for Atlanta United. The last match they're going to have with Barco and Robinson and Bello and Guzan for a while. Let's make the most of it. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, excited to see how Atlanta plays it out with Chicago Fire. This is a winnable game. It's a team that they've beaten this season. Need those goals, especially early. I think a couple early goals, and we're having a good Saturday night.
All right, thanks to Anton Walkes. Thanks to Kat and Ryan and the crew with Atlanta United. And we will see you next week for the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff.